All right, in this graph of aggression, I'm going to show you how to disconnect your lines in your data paths so that you can put in a phase line between your baseline and your treatment data path. So there are a couple ways you can do this. You can leave everything as one data path and then just know that you've got to disconnect your data path and add a phase line when you start treatment. There's also another way you can do this. I'm going to show you the first way. So right here I just made a column for notes, and this shows that on December 3rd and 6th we were taking data in baseline, and on December 9th we implemented a treatment of a DRA. So the data point on 12/9 is actually a treatment data point, and we want to disconnect this from this data point up here. So if you click on your data path twice, and you kind of want to do this slowly, if you click really fast, it's going to show format data series. So you want to give it 2 slow clicks. 1, 2. You can see that only this data point is selected. Go to format. You'll see too that it says data point. If it's selected the whole series, when you go here and you go up to format, you're going to see it says data series. You only want to work with that one data point. So again, you just double click slowly, format data point. And what you're wanting to do is go down to line, and where it has the color, you're just going to select no line. It's going to take away the line between these 2 points. Now this does kind of mess up your legend here, because now it's looking at, since you've disconnected the lines, it's looking at each data point as like its own data path. For now, I'm just going to actually delete this. And we'll see that we have these 2 disconnected, and then we're going to want to add in a phase line to show that we started treatment. So you go into insert shape, so insert picture, shape. We're going to pick that line right here. Again, put the line in between these 2 points, and if you hold the shift before you drag it, it will stay a straight line. We're just going to put it in like that. I'm actually going to change this line to be red and actually dashed. So now you've clarified, your baseline and your treatment data. The other thing that you want to do is you want to put some labels up here to show that this is baseline and then what your treatment is. So in order to do that, you kind of want to make sure you have enough space here. I might just move this little aggression title up a tiny bit so I have space to write up here. And there are a couple ways you can do this. You can insert a text box, drag it here, and you can just simply put baseline. It has a line around this box. I don't like that. It doesn't look very clean to me. So if you select the box and go up to format shape, here where it says line, you can just put no line. It just makes it a little more clean. And then we're going to want to add a second one for our treatment. And I just wrote in that it was a DRA. It wasn't giving me enough space, so you're just going to extend your box out. Move it up a tiny bit. Try to line it up with your baseline box. Double click on it. Format, shape. Take away that line. So then we have our labels over each phase. Now, this works, but you actually have to start moving your text boxes around. As you get more and more data, this data is going to push back, and so you're going to have to move these labels with your data to make sure that they stay within those phase lines. So if we ended up putting in a bunch of data here, we brought this down, you can see it's kind of extending out. As it gets bigger and bigger, you're going to want to make sure that those lines move with your graph. So another way to do it, again, and the other problem that you might see is that when you go to copy this and paste it in some sort of Word document as a report, your text box and your shapes might not go with you. You can select all of them to make sure that they do, but another option for this is to click a data point within, let's say, one of your baseline data points. If you double click that data point and you go into Format, Data Point, actually, we're going to go in here and add, where is it? Control Command, add data label is what I want. I'm trying to find that up here on the menu bar. Add data label. And what that does is it gives a label. It gives a label for what that data point is. It's at that day it was at 22. I'm going to move that data label slowly but surely right here. And I'm just going to change what it says. I'm going to have it say baseline. And then I'm going to go in here to our treatment data. I'm going to pick a treatment data point. So again, 2 slow clicks, Control Command, add a data label. I'm going to go in here and put treatment DRI. And then I'm going to move it up here as well. This ensures that as you continue to enter more data and your data points start moving more to the left, that it will follow with your data points, which will save you time later on from having to move stuff around as you have a client for a longer amount of time and collected a lot of data on them. Now this is one way to designate your baseline from your treatment data staying within the same column. Another way that you can do it, and a lot of times you might want to keep your baseline and your treatment data in 2 different columns in order to help with averages and summaries, is to, we're going to take out these notes really quick. And I'm going to go ahead and add a row here. So I've just, if you click inside here, you're only going to highlight a cell, but if you actually click on these gray numbers, you're going to highlight that whole row. And I want to highlight the top row and go to Insert another row. So I get one above it. And what I'm going to do here is call this baseline and treatment. They're both aggression. So if you want to be really fancy, you can just merge those two. You know that's aggression, but you're looking at baseline and treatment. And so where your baseline data ends, so I think the way that we had it before, we have 2 data points that are in baseline. All the rest of your data is going to still go into aggression, but it's going to go in your treatment column. So it's going to go like that. And then what you're going to do is source this as another data path in your graph. So Control Command, select data. We have it as aggression right now. I'm going to call this baseline. And then I'm going to add a series, and I'm going to call it treatment. I'm actually going to call it DRA since that's the specific treatment, and we might have a lot of treatments. So we'll call that DRA. We go back to our baseline, we see that it's sourcing B3 through B21. I'm going to copy that, go to DRA. I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to change it to column C. And it's going to source as an entirely another data path. And the reason, the benefit of using 2 different columns is when you have to do baseline averages and treatment averages, you can highlight all of this and get an average down here, or highlight all of this instead of having to work within a single column. But you can do it either way. You'll notice in this graph, there are a couple of things. One thing is that we're not seeing the last data point. We see everything up until 12/31. So again, little funky things happen like this, whatever the default settings are in Excel. So for this, what we would want to do is click on this axis. Remember, we get this box. If you click on it, double click so we can look at formatting that axis. And if we go to scale, we're going to see that our maximum data point is up to 1231. Well, our data goes to 1.3. So I want to source this out to, let's say, the end of January. I want to make sure that this graph is going to hold everything till the end of January. 131.16. There we go. And you can see this is what I'm talking about. It's pushing your data closer together and pushing it to the left. So as you get more data points, they're going to get closer together. This is an object. This phase line is an object. So we have to move it. There we go. However, you can see here that the actual data label, because it was a data label, moved with the data. It didn't stay out here. So when you resourced it and it scrunches it together, if you make it a data label instead of a text box, it's going to move with your data, which is the benefit of doing it that way. The other thing I noticed about this graph is that it's doing these with 2 decimal places, these numbers in our axis, our vertical axis. It's a default that Excel decided it was going to do. If you double click on these, you can go to number, and you can see that this is set on number and it's saying decimal places of 2. We want to change this to 1. Not sure why it's not letting us. I think it's because it's linked to source. I'm going to unclick this box, and now it's going to let me edit. I don't know why that works. It does. So now you can see that these are just single numbers. They don't have decimals. We're not worried too much about their frequency to specific decimal places in this graph. I'm going to move our phase line over again. So that's what it would end up looking like when we're done, except that we need our treatment up here. I'm going to double click on this one data point. That's going to be the one that I want a data label for. Control Command click, add a data label. Kind of click in there twice slowly in order to edit the text. And that's what it would look like.